I now have the privilege of introducing one of my many, many amazing teachers, Maureen Manning. Mo does so many things for us. Her paid job is teaching English to freshmen and drama to sophomores, and much, much more. However, her life and her passion is connecting to every student, then staying connected to them beyond graduation. I don't know where we'd be without her, Maureen Manning.
Good morning. You're going to have to be a little patient with me. I've been struggling with bronchitis for a week, so hopefully I won't have to take a break and hack for a while. But my name is Maureen Manning, and I'm an English and drama teacher at Edison. When Pat asked me to speak at the breakfast, I knew I wouldn't have any problem writing or delivering the speech, given my background. My biggest worry was being awake enough to deliver the speech. As I've reminded Pat many times over the years, I am not a morning person. So while I'd like to welcome all of you to the Edison breakfast, here's a special shout out to those of you who, like me, are not morning people. High five. I started at Edison as a substitute teacher at the suggestion of my good friend Grant, who was teaching drama there at the time. I was a recent transplant from Seattle with a long and proven record of avoiding a full-time job. Although my degree was in education, my passion was in theater. And I spent most of my years after college working for various children's theaters, traveling the world, visiting such exotic locales as Japan, Guam, Singapore, Saipan, American Samoa, and Gresham, Oregon. Hey, if you've been to Guernsey, Wyoming, Gresham is exotic. When two longtime friends, who also happened to be the two drama directors at Jesuit, started a children's theater in Portland, I moved from Seattle to be part of it. To help supplement the drama classes I was teaching, I subbed at both Jesuit and Edison. A couple years later, Grant switched from teaching English switched to teaching English, and the director at the time, Jocelyn Tuthill, approached me about taking over his two drama classes. Even though the job was part-time, I had grown accustomed to the flexibility of my work schedule. I recall asking Jocelyn if I would need to come every day and at the same time. When she said yes, I said, I really don't think I'm interested in that. After their other candidates didn't work out, she called me back in. Just try it for a year, she asked. And then if you don't like it, we'll look for someone else. This year, I'm entering my 20th year at Jesuit, at Edison. A couple weeks ago, one of my students, Sharmila, asked me what made me want to be a teacher. I didn't answer her then. We were in my classroom during lunch. It was noisy and chaotic, and we kept getting interrupted. She tried again, asking, but seriously, why do you want to do this? She never got her answer, but I thought about her question a lot as I wrote this speech. And I think I can tie it back to a moment in a kindergarten classroom where I had a long-term sub job. The children in the class were at various levels of learning to read, but one little guy, Timmy, was really struggling. Timmy Tipton. Is that a great name? I swear I'm not making that up. I worked with him daily, sounding out the consonants and vowels that would unlock the mysteries of those marks on the page. A, apple, E, elephant. Day after day, it never seemed to sink in. And one day, as I pointed to the alphabet strip on the wall and sounded out the vowels, his eyes lit up. He looked from the alphabet strip to me, to the book. He pointed to the vowel in the simple word he was reading. Ah? He asked. I nodded. He pointed to another. Ah? He asked. I nodded again. He haltingly read, Matt hops on Sam. I nodded once more. He beamed at me, and suddenly, he was reading. That moment, seeing the light bulb come on above Timmy's head, has remained one of the most seminal of my teaching career. For many teachers, I think, glimpsing that moment when a student gets it is profoundly rewarding. As a teacher of students with LDs, those moments carry extra weight. The freshmen who enter my classroom every year often arrive feeling defeated. Their self-esteem has been battered. They've often been bullied. They're convinced they're stupid. I've shaken my head in disbelief when they've told me about teachers or other adults in their lives, who have told them they were uneducable, that they would never graduate, that they would never amount to anything. I'm sure you can imagine what kind of effort it takes to scrub away those thoughtless words and convince a child who struggles academically of his or her own capabilities. Most of the time, those light bulb moments aren't as dramatic as the one I experienced with Timmy. Sometimes they happen quickly, as soon as the student begins to get the classroom support that might have been missing in the past. Other times, the growth is so glacial, we don't even realize until 3 or 4 years later that the light bulb has come on. Most of the time, though, to borrow a metaphor from my colleague, Kate Fellows-Russell, that moment is more like a fluorescent bulb that flickers a little, warms up, and then bursts into full brightness. That was our experience with Nate, who arrived as a junior, a sullen, hunched over, indifferent young man glowering from beneath hair almost as long as mine. He informed me early on that he wouldn't be staying long. He would be heading back to Tacoma soon, to his old school and friends. And for a long time, I was convinced he might be right. In the beginning, our definition of a good day was if he didn't storm out and go home before the end of the school day. But that light began to flicker, and the changes started to happen. He cut his hair, he smiled, he joined student council. I swore he grew 6 inches one week, and it turns out he was just standing up straight. Near the end of his senior year, he stopped by Nick Dexter's office and grudgingly admitted, "Well, Mr. Dexter, I guess I'm going to be one of those Edison success stories." When I'm really lucky, I get to see proof that the light bulb is still glowing even after they graduate. Like during our visit to Ashland last month, when I witnessed Niku, who graduated last year, leading a college tour and reminding underclassmen that seeking help and advocating yourself is critical to your success after high school. Regardless of how quickly that light bulb comes on, I am always so grateful to know that I had even a small part in making it happen. Sharmila, that's why I want to do this. I've seen a lot of change in my almost 20 years at Edison, most of it positive. Staff has come and gone, including Grant, who introduced me to the school, and Jocelyn, who died several years ago. Our program has strengthened from a 2-year to a 4-year high school. Our student body has grown from about 55 students when I started to our current 96. But through all the changes, a few things have remained constant. I have always worked with an amazing, dedicated, inspiring group of teachers and staff members. These are not people who phone it in, but often work well past the 3:30 bell and even on Saturdays. They work to establish connections with students because they know that those relationships reduce the likelihood that students will engage in unhealthy behaviors and increase their chances for academic success. They are professionals who care about the students and truly, truly want them to become their best possible selves. I'd like to ask all of the faculty and staff to stand and be recognized. That, ladies and gentlemen, is why I want to do this. I have always worked with students who stretch me to the edges of my capabilities as much as I work to stretch them to theirs. Yes, there are days when they exasperate me. They are teenagers, after all. But more often, I am challenged to find new ways to help them understand a concept, inspired by their resilience, and amused by their shenanigans. Like the time Mac filled all the holes on a power strip with paper clips and then plugged it in to see what would happen. And then threw his jacket over the ensuing spark, setting his jacket on fire. Or the time at a restaurant when Jensen informed me that my teeth were blue. It turns out that he had brought one of those dental plaque disclosing tablets and managed to sneak it into my soup. Interestingly enough, I just learned that he's now in pre-med. 20 years with teenagers has guaranteed that my job is never boring. That's why I want to do this. And for as long as I have worked at Edison, the school has always had the support of parents, family, friends, and community members. Parents who are willing to make enormous sacrifices to make sure their child is successful. The friends and family members who share the expense of tuition and help with homework. People like you who are willing to show up at 7:30 in the morning, even when you're not morning people, to offer your support through the donations that help make the school accessible to all students, not just those with the means to afford it. Supporters who guarantee that our population will be as diverse as those people who struggle with an LD. You all understand that for our kids, those light bulb moments are often hard-won, but they are all the more powerful for it. Sharmila, I'm sorry we kept getting interrupted at lunch that day. I hope this answers your question. That's why I want to do this. But more importantly, that's why I want to do this at Edison. Thank you.